Welcome back, friends, to another edition of Ancient Egypt. And today we're going to pick up where we left off talking about Ramses. Ramses the Great was not the same Ramses of the Exodus. And in our discussion, Professor Breyer talks about that, how there were 3 different Ramses. And I notice a lot of times on some of these shows, on these cable shows, History Channel, and other historical shows where they do the little clips, they don't really tell you which Ramses it is. They just say Pharaoh Ramses and then they keep going. So a lot of people think when they hear other information, oh, that's got to be it. They said Ramses. No. There's 3 different ones. So in this particular chapter, Ramses' 13th son takes over the family business. First son died. I don't know what happened to the other children, but we're about to get into it.
There's one more bit that's really the cornerstone. It's called the Merneptah Stela. Now remember, Ramses' firstborn son, Amenhotep, he died before he became pharaoh. It's the 13th son, and we're going to talk a lot about him next time. It's the 13th son, Merneptah, who becomes king. In the 5th year of his reign, he erects a stela, talking about all his victories. This is the first place in the Egyptian record where Israel is mentioned. We never get it during the reign of Ramses. We get it during the 5th year of the reign of Merneptah. And I'll tell you what he says. On the stela, he says, Canaan has been plundered into every sort of woe. All right, so he's going to list the countries that he's beaten up. Canaan has been plundered into every sort of woe. Ashkelon has been overcome. Gezer has been captured. Yanoam has been made non-existent. Israel is laid waste. Its seed is not. Israel is laid waste. Its seed is not. Now, first mention of Israel. Important to note, he's not talking about the Exodus. Many people think Merneptah is the pharaoh of the Exodus, but he's talking about battles outside of Egypt. He's listing all these places he's beaten up. But what's crucial is this. It's the way the word Israel is written. If you look at all of these countries that he's talking about, right? He's got Canaan, Ashkelon, Gezer, right? All of these. At the end of that word, for that country, is the sign for a foreign land. It's a hill, 3 hills, because foreign lands had lots of hills. That's how you said country. When he refers to Israel, there is no country sign. What you have is a sign of a man and a woman. In other words, Israel at this point is not a country. It's not an established place. It's a people's.
Huh. Okay. That's something I didn't know before. So, he's saying that the son of Ramses, the son of the Exodus, he had depicted 3 hills, which represent countries. But for a people, a man and a woman, men and women get together, they have children. That's a community in modern day terms. But you'd have to have a lot more than 50 to 100 people for a country. So it kind of makes sense that in their day and age, a country would be 3 hills and a people. So even then, Israel, the children of Israel, because there was no country called Israel at that time. There was no country. There's a country now called Israel, But back then, no such thing. Israel was not a country. Israel was a people. The original Israel, the original Jews were a people. And they were from Africa. So, we also learn that Moses' name is actually Egyptian in origin. Now, this man is a scholar. He didn't went to school and did all types of things. So, based on other pieces of literature and things I've seen on the internet, I tend to believe that, yeah, because my thing is this, in layman terms, if you grow up in a certain environment, that's like, okay, here we go. A poor white person grows up in the ghetto. They grow up in the hood. They have hood-like tendencies. But when they go outside of the hood, when they go back into the white community and they start acting like they from the hood, it throws people off because they look white, but they talking black. Okay? But then when they go back to the hood, as they get older, a lot of black people not going to accept that. Just because you live in the hood don't mean you hood. Don't mean that you part of the culture. And that's how it is sometimes. You pick up things from the community that you live in, the environment that you live in. Moses was of Jewish faith. Moses was an Israelite because of his mother and father, but Moses was raised as an Egyptian. He had an Egyptian name. He knew how to read it, and that was another thing. People say, oh, well, he didn't know how to read and write. His adopted mother was the princess of Egypt. He knew how to read and write. Let's just stop that right now. If the royal house knew how to read and write, the common people might not know how to read and write, but the royal house, they knew how to read and write. So, that being said, if Moses was adopted by the Pharaoh's daughter, he was taught how to read and write in Egypt. He was taught the Egyptian language. It was later on when he got into his birth. I'm at a loss for words right now. But yeah, he was taught how to read and write. And he learned it in Egyptian. It was later on when he started talking to the Israelites, and he had to learn how to communicate with them. So I feel like when they say he didn't know how to read and write, he didn't know how to read and write in the Jewish terms of reading and writing, in the Israelite terms of reading and writing. But yeah, if I have a kid, I can't take care of the kid, but I know a rich family that does know how to care and provide for them. So I give the kid to them. They adopt the kid. That child is going to grow up, even though that child is from my faith, my religion, my community. That child is going to grow up with the finer things in life because of the parents that adopted him. They're going to learn different languages. They're going to travel to different countries. They're going to learn all kinds of things that I myself couldn't provide for them. Therefore, they're going to have a better education than the typical child within the community. I hope I didn't lose anybody by that. But yeah, Moses' name itself is derived from Egyptian culture. He knew how to read and write because he was raised in the Egyptian royal kingdom, royal house. So yeah, he knew how to read and write. Don't get it twisted. He might not have been able to communicate thoroughly with the Israelites, but Egypt, yeah, he knew. He knew.
Is that they have not established themselves yet. They are still wandering. So during the time of Merneptah, it suggests that Israel has not yet established itself. Now, if you do a little mathematics, which is kind of neat, if you count backwards, year 5 of Merneptah, the only pharaoh whose reign this could have come into if the Israelites are still wandering is the previous one, Ramses the Great, who ruled for 67 years. And many people, biblical scholars, Ken Kitchen's a great scholar on Ramses the Great, suggest that it happened sometime around year 20 of Ramses' reign even. Right? Sometime around there. Now, what's interesting is that, remember, that's when Ramses' firstborn son, Amen-Her-Khepshef, dies, roughly. So, we've got some consistency here that something may have happened, right? May have. The death of Ramses' firstborn child may indeed have come during this Exodus period, and Amen-Her-Khepshef may be that firstborn son who dies. So, it is possible that something happened. Not 600,000, something much smaller. But there is some evidence that something like the Exodus may have happened. And if it did, I think it probably happened during the reign of Ramses the Great. But next time, we'll talk a little bit more about Ramses, but a different Ramses. We're going to talk about Ramses' mummy, and then about this 13th son, Merneptah, who becomes king of Egypt. We'll do that next.
So, again, they talk about Ramses the Great. They talk about Ramses' 13 kids. They talk about how the firstborn child died. So it's they got a lot going on. But that's going to end things for now. And he's going to talk more about the 13th son. And we will get back to that in our next discussion. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later.